We can get going. Let's start because since we have a representative here from CivicClerk, let's start with the first item on the business of the meeting. That's CivicClerk board member training. So Jennifer, do you want to take that away, or is Justin ready to do it?
I think Justin, it looks like Justin's on. He's ready to go. We've kind of given you guys a heads up that we're switching our agenda software, and so Justin's here to walk you through the board member features and how you guys will be able to access the agendas moving forward. So turn it over to Justin.
Wonderful. Thank you, Justin.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in just a moment here. So you should be seeing my screen in just a moment. I have the web page up, and then I have a notepad up in front of that. Is that coming across for you?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So as was just stated, CivicClerk is a tool that manages agendas and minutes and packets, and it is a web-based tool. So in order to access your agendas and what have you, you don't need to install any software. You just basically need an up-to-date browser. And the web address that I have in that notepad, I went ahead and put it there so it's a little easier to read. You've probably already received this, but the address to get to the site is centervilleit.civicClerk.com/board-view, just like that. When you go to that address, it will prompt you for a username and a password, which I believe we have most everybody set up. If we missed anybody, we can resolve that pretty quickly, but I believe we have most everybody established. If you had not had opportunity to validate your account when the account was originally set up, I'll show you how to trigger that validation again so you can set up your password. So when we go to that address, so centervilleit.civicClerk.com/board-view, we can make sure you get that in the follow-up. It will take you to a login screen similar to what I have on my screen right now. Just a red circle with asking for the email address and password. So the email address is whatever email address is associated with your account. If you had not had a chance an opportunity at least to put in your password or set up your password, or if you forgot your password for CivicClerk, all you would need to do is on this screen, put in your email address, and at the bottom, there's a reset password link. If you click that, that will send you an email to that email address, asking you to either validate your account if you haven't done that yet, or reset the password. So the link in that email for validation, at least, only works for 24 hours. So that's why it's kind of time sensitive. And sometimes with the validation that happens. So I'm going to go ahead and actually I already have the site logged in, I believe. Give me just 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Yep, there we go. So I'm already logged in on my other screen here. I just wanted to show you the login screen and where you can tell it to validate again, because that happens quite a lot. Anyway, so this is the board portal for CivicClerk. This would be the screen you see when you log in, and basically just kind of breaking it down, it shows the agendas. So it lets you see the agendas that are posted to the board. Down at the bottom, I could also select minutes. So if there were any minutes were posted, I would see those. And then I can also see my notes, and if there are any media files that have been saved for that meeting, like recordings, video recordings that are posted to the site, I should be able to go to media and see that there. But primarily it's agendas, and that'll be the main focus that most board members generally need. So I clicked on agendas again. And essentially what you would have here are cards for each of the individual agendas that are published. I went ahead and published my training one that I had done and some of the other trainings just so you could see what it looks like. So I see my, oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah.
This is Council Member Summerhays. I'm looking for that training agenda on my page. I don't see that on my page. I'm logged in. Do I need to? Or is that not posted on our individual ones that we're already logged in?
It would depend which board the agenda was set up for, whether you could see it or not. So I'd have to go through and check and see exactly which board it was. So If you got to that screen, then you're probably in the right place. It's just a matter of, so for example, if I was part of Planning Commission, I would only see Planning Commission agendas.
Right,
And
I just don't see any agendas on.
yeah,
There's
'cause
no
it-
data to display.
right, exactly. So, which would make sense in that case, but
And I just didn't know if the training agenda would be on there as an item to display. Thanks.
yeah, not a problem. Good question. So you'll just watch off my screen then in the meantime. Anything I see, you'll see too. So there should be no difference at all. So from here, if I go ahead and click on the agenda, that opens it up into a sort of a digital agenda, a web agenda. And we can see the individual sections and the meeting items as we're scrolling through. So I see under presentations, I have this training agenda presentation as an example. And if there is one of those items that I was interested in, I want to see more information on, I can just click on that. That takes me into there and I can see who created it, what the department was, who the sponsors were, if there were any recommended actions, and then any attachments for that. So looking at this presentation that I have here, if I wanted to look at this attachment for a fire escape plan, I could click that and it loads that up within the site so I can see that document and so on. So really, this is just trying to give you a way of viewing the agenda and the supporting documents all on the website. You don't need to download anything necessarily. And letting you as well, along with that, if you scroll down just a bit when you're in the item, take notes. Now you may notice the notes says that it's private. These notes are private. The notes you take on a meeting item are visible only to yourself. So no other board members would see your notes and vice versa. And
So quick question on that.
yeah, absolutely.
This is actually directed towards city staff. Are the notes considered a protected record?
Well, they would be if they're on your own notes under grandma. Notes are private, but I am concerned because in our training, he said that these could be accessible. So it is creating a record.
But not
it should
necessarily
be private.
protected.
So
Okay.
I don't know, at your own risk, don't put anything that you don't want someone to read.
Yeah, that's my usual philosophy on that, just in general, is never write things down you don't want read. The way I would generally think of it, mind you, I'm not a lawyer, so that's not my expertise. If it would be something that, say you were taking notes in the meeting on a pad of paper, and those would be a part of public record request, then this would as well.
What if they
So-
write something just for the meeting, Justin, and then after the meeting, they delete it? Does Civic Clerk keep any record of prior versions?
We can. It gets to be a little more complicated at that point, but if you contact support, we can recover from database backups to recover that if need be. So,
And again,
So
don't do it.
don't do that either.
now with the notes, I will point out, I'm going to put some notes in. I'll say these are my notes. Not a creative writer. It does actually auto-save my dictation or whatever I put down within there. So it's not a separate save function that I'm doing as I'm typing, it's saving for me. So I could go ahead and just continue moving along. I'm going to go back to agenda details, for example, and it will take me back to there and I can go through the next item and so on and so forth. So that's the web version of the agenda. If you'd rather view it in a more traditional manner, like the agenda with the header that would be printed out and things of that nature, you can do that as well. If you look at the top, there's a button for agenda, and then for the packet, I'm going to do the packet here, and it will load up that document as a PDF. And in the case of the packet, it would load up that document along with all of the other supporting documents as a single file that I could download. Actually, if I'm viewing the packet, there is in the tools at the top a thumbnails option. It makes that a little bit easier to kind of scroll through because you can see all the pages on one sort of list, and you can pick the one you want from there. So I can get back to my fire escape plan as an example. So that is something you still have the ability to get into if you'd rather view it that way. And realistically, with these documents viewed this way, You can download those files. So over on the right-hand side, there is a download, looks like an arrow with the pointing towards a line that'll download that file to your computer. You could save that file. You could print that file out. So that's giving you just another way to do that. Actually, one more thing with these documents like the agenda and packet that I'm seeing here, if you look at the very top left, there is a annotate option. And annotate would let you mark up that document. So much like what you would have with the notes that are private, you can annotate, and those annotations are saved for your login as well. So no other board members would see your markups and vice versa. So if I go ahead and save these changes that I made here, and then I go back into that packet document, when it loads that back up again, it will have my markups saved for me.
So there is no more notice.
Correct. Going.
So those are the big things as far as accessing the agenda and the packet. You have a couple of different options within there. And the main idea is we're just trying to give folks another way of getting to that information and taking down their notes. Now that I've added some notes, if I go down to the notes tab at the bottom that I mentioned earlier, I can go into this training agenda and it actually will let me see a list of all of my notes. And if I click to that specific item, it takes me into that item of that agenda. And this also lets me print all of those notes out if I wanted to. So basically it's a pretty database that lets you kind of pull the information in different ways. And that's the basic gist of it. There's not too much more within here unless you were looking to do electronic voting and things of that nature. But for just accessing the agendas, it's pretty simple on that part. So we'll take a quick pause and see what questions you have.
When is our first meeting using CivicClerk?
We don't know yet.
Okay.
We're shooting for a month or so out.
Okay.
That was an internal question, Justin.
So plan on 2,
So what, final what?
plan on 2 months.
Well, at least a month, maybe 2. What other questions for Justin? So Justin, if we dig into this further, who's going to be our expert? Can we contact you or Jennifer, or what do we do? If we have questions.
And Jennifer, you may want to chime in on this too, but generally speaking, Jennifer is going to be a lot easier to contact than I will. So I would probably say reach out to her first and see if she has a quick answer for you. I'm happy to help. But I work with a lot of different clients, so it's hard for me to say, oh, I can jump right on that. One thing I will point out, and I was going to kind of mention this before I let you go anyways, but if you're logged into the CivicClerk software and you go into the upper right corner, you'll see your drop down for your name. You will find the Help Center in there, and Help Center does have the manuals and videos for the board portal for some of the more common things that we see come up. So if you just are lost and you're beating your head against a wall and you can't remember how to do something, you can go ahead and refer back to that Help Center because it does have the instructions, videos, manuals that you can print out. And in my case, it has pictures, and I need every little bit of help I can get some days with that. So yeah, that Help Center is once again found in that upper right. So I would recommend checking that out first because most of the questions I see people have are things that are already addressed there, and you can save yourself some time. So
I just noticed, Justin, under that tab is the email preference, and you can click notify me when meeting content is published.
that's right.
Is that going to notify them or whoever signed up for that the whole packet's published, or every time we add something to that packet?
It's when the packet is published.
And what if we add something after it's published? Sometimes we do that. Will it notify them that we've updated it?
They would get an update when you publish the newer version of the packet, because when you make a change, it doesn't change the file that's published until you tell it to show the newer version of that file. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, the email notification goes out on that publishing action. That's
So
the
maybe it
trigger.
would be nice to have all the board members click that. So
I
So
believe
if I've
by
got-
default they should be checked anyway.
By default, everything's checked. I just went in there.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mine was not. So
Yeah, you may check with the board members that they are, but yeah, for the most part, those should be checked by default.
The only ones that I see that board agendas can't click or unclick would be the notification on task assignment and task completion.
Yeah, and that's for the administrative side. For the board portal one, it's a little different. They only have the one option for when new meeting content is published. So it's a lot more streamlined, we'll say, for that purpose. All right. What other questions do we have?
Look,
How long does it take for these sign-in emails to come back?
If you say forgot password, normally the email comes back within a few minutes. So it's pretty quick. If you're not seeing that within, I would say, an hour, check your spam filter or junk mail. Sometimes due to just the volume of emails that our servers send out, it gets flagged as spam. So that does happen sometimes. So I would check that. And if that's still not working, let Jennifer or myself know, and we can figure out what's going on there and get you taken care of.
No, it's not there. I don't think check my spam as often as I should. But I just did.
All right. Well, unless you had any other questions, I don't want to eat up any more of your time. I'm happy to look at other issues or whatnot for you, but yeah, I've kind of covered all the big things on my checklist.
Thank you, Justin. I think I don't see any other hands raised. So thank you for taking the time and being here.
Of course. Thank you.
Perfect.